Welcome at Pizza and More. You are in the right video. This is the video for Poolish, but at the first I want to say, please excuse me. I want to say sorry. The sound quality on the first part of the video is not that nice. I have a new microphone and I tested it. Everything was fine, but then in the first couple of records it was not that nice, so please excuse for that. And now to the original video. Welcome to Pizza and More. Do you maybe think it's a very complicated or time-consuming task to create a pizza dough with a pre-dough? No, it isn't. I'm Jürgen and I show you today how we make a nice pizza dough with a pre-dough, so-called Poolish. The Poolish is a very liquid pre-dough. The Poolish is or has hydration of 100%, which means we have the same amount of flour and the same amount of water. The Poolish will have at the end a better taste than a direct dough. Well, taste, it depends on every individual if something tastes better or not that good. But normally Poolish or a dough with a pre-dough tastes a little bit different and a bit better. The Poolish is a bit into the direction of sour. This is because of the huge amount of liquid in the pre-dough. But we have also some advantages, or we have advantages if we create the dough with a pre-dough. So our pizza will be a bit more or easier to stretch tomorrow when we form or the day after tomorrow when we form the pizza. So it's easier to stretch. It's a bit more flexible, let's say it like this. And the crust will be super crunchy. So normally after a Poolish, the crust is nice and crunchy. The dough we create right now will have a total leavening time of 48 hours, which means our Poolish will have a leavening time of 24 hours, and then the main dough as well will also have a leavening time of 24 hours. So the ideal leavening time for a Poolish is between 16 and 24 hours. There is also the possibility to let the Poolish raise only for 12 hours, but then the Poolish stays at room temperature, and I will tell you later we will place it in the fridge. And here you can see right now the ingredients we need for our Poolish. I have here 250 grams of 00 flour. By the way, the whole recipe, the whole procedure and all ingredients are in the video descriptions. So as I said, I have here 00 flour with 14% protein and a W value of 340. I have here 0.2 grams of dry yeast. If you want to use fresh yeast, you have to use 0.6 grams. And I have here 250 grams cold water directly out of the tub. I have here now a strong flour because in total the biga will have the Poolish will have a leavening time of when it is in the main dough of 48 hours, which means we need a strong flour. Tomorrow for the refresh of the main dough, I will use a different flour, but tomorrow I will then say a bit more. Now let's create the Poolish and you will see how easy it is. We take a bowl, we pour all the water into our bowl. If you would use fresh yeast, then now add the fresh yeast and stir it or mix it up with a whisk. If we use dry yeast, we add in the first instance our flour to the water. Then we add our yeast and then we mix it up with the whisk. Here we have to be a bit careful, otherwise the whole kitchen will be dirty afterwards. So be in the first couple of turnings a bit careful, and then you can mix it up a bit more quick until the whole Poolish or dough is homogeneous.
You only have to mix for a minute or two. Afterwards we clean the side of the bowl. We put everything to the center so that nothing gets dried, and then you see our Poolish is done. Nobody can tell me that creating a Poolish or this kind of brie dough is complicated or time consuming. How long have you taken? 5 minutes maximum, isn't it? So absolutely no problem.
So as I said, it's really quick to create and not complicated to create our Poolish brie dough. Now we have to cover with a lid our bowl, or if you have no fitting lid, then use a thin foil or whatever to cover the bowl so that we protect our Poolish from drying out. When we did this, we let the Poolish now at room temperature for 1 to 2 hours, and after this time we place it into the fridge, and in the fridge we let it for around 22 hours, so that the total leavening time for the Poolish is around 24 hours. It shouldn't raise longer than 24 hours. This should be really enough. Better would be a bit shorter, so between 16 and 24 hours. And as already said, there is also the possibility to let it raise only 12 hours, but then the whole 12 hours at room temperature. 24 hours are over. The Poolish developed very nice. I already opened the lid, and you can have a look in. I will show you my Poolish a bit later as well. There are some air bubbles already. It's super liquid, which is clear because we have a 100% hydration here, but it looks great, and I will show you this a bit later. Firstly, to the ingredients once more, because I said already we take a different, or I take now a different flour for the main dough. In the Poolish, I used a flour with a very high percentage of protein and with a high W value. This was a very strong flour. This is the reason because the Poolish, or the flour in the Poolish, has a total leavening time of 48 hours, which means for this long period of time we need a strong flour. The main dough now, or the flour we put into the main dough, has a leavening time in some then for about 24 hours, which means I use here a flour which is used to be for 24 hours leavening time. I have here a flour type 0 with a protein value of 12.5% and a W value of 260 to 280.
The ingredients for our main dough are, here is the Poolish, then I have here 250 grams of type 0 flour, I have 0.3 grams dry yeast. If you want to use fresh yeast, then use 0.9 grams. I have 15 grams of fine sea salt and 90 grams of water. In sum, the water will then result into a 68% hydration. If 68% is too much for you, then please use a bit less, so only 65% or even more or less, how you are able to work the dough. And now we add our ingredients into the machine. The first we add is our water. It is a very cold water out of the fridge. The next one we add is our Poolish. If you have a fresh yeast, for example, then please add the fresh yeast directly to the water and dissolve it in the water and then add the Poolish. But as I have here dry yeast, I add the yeast now directly with the flour. This takes only a minute or two. The next is our flour. And then directly our yeast. And then we start mixing. We mix now for around 5 minutes on a low speed, and in 5 minutes after everything is mixed up, we add the sea salt. After 5 minutes of mixing, almost all the ingredients are mixed up, which means I add now our sea salt. And then we increase the speed of our machine. The whole kneading time will be at around 20 minutes, which means from now on round about 15 minutes additional, and we have to knead until the window test works. Now I think the dough is properly kneaded, which means we make the window test.
During kneading, it's always important to check the temperature of the dough, because the temperature of the dough shouldn't raise over 25 to 27 degrees. As soon we are over this point, there is the danger that our gluten structure breaks and we have afterwards a very weak and not that stable dough, and we have really problems with stretching our pizza. But now let's go to the window test. The easiest to do the window test is to cover your hands with water or olive oil or some flour, and then you take out of the bowl a piece of dough. You form a ball in your hands and then you stretch it. And if you are able to stretch the dough properly so that it does not break, then the dough is properly kneaded and the gluten structure is built as it should. You can see it's super. Alright, now I take the dough out of the bowl, of the mixer, onto my counter.
The dough is now in front of us on the counter, and you see it's not really a nice structured dough, and now it's our job to make here a nice dough ball. Therefore we do the so-called stretch and fold, which means we go from the left and from the right, we lift the dough, we put it back onto the counter, we stretch it here a bit, and then we fold it over. And then we do exactly the same several times. Due to this, we strengthen our gluten structure, and you see directly it stops sticking, and here we build a proper and strong surface. If it is like this now, then we can turn our dough ball, because through the turning also at the bottom it sticks a bit on the counter, and then it stretches automatically your dough ball. This is exactly what we want, that the surface is strong, and we can pull our dough ball. We turn it again, and then with the little fingers we go under the dough ball, and then we pull it. We don't roll it. Maybe you have to put your thumb on top of it, otherwise it will roll. And then we pull it, and then we make a nice and strong dough ball. If this is like mine now, then we take a box and we place our dough ball in the box.
We have to take the lid of our box and we have to close our box so that the dough didn't get dry. Otherwise it would, there would be the danger, or not only the danger, it would be guaranteed that the surface of the dough dries out. And we want to avoid with the lid. We let the dough now rest for around 1 to 2 hours at room temperature, and after this time we put the dough into the fridge, and we let the dough in the fridge for around 12 to 16 hours or something like this, and then we shape our dough balls. It would be also possible to let the dough rest now for only 30 minutes to 2 hours and then shape our dough balls. You can do it like you want, how you have time. I don't know how your time plan looks like. For me, it's the best now I shape now the big ball. As I said, I let it rest for 1 to 2 hours at room temperature, back to the fridge, and tomorrow morning I will shape the dough balls. But however, we will see us at this time and I will show you how to shape the dough balls. If you have mozzarella which is in this salty water, then please open the bag, put the mozzarella out and cut the mozzarella itself into sticks, and then place the sticks in a sieve and put the mozzarella back into the fridge. This has then the possibility that all the water which is inside of the mozzarella drains out, and we have afterwards a more dry mozzarella, which makes things easier. Then our pizza will not be that soggy, and we don't want to have a soggy pizza. My dough was now for around 14 hours in the fridge. No, this is not correct. It was around about 12 hours in the fridge, 2 hours before it rested at room temperature. As I said, it's not really that necessary if this is now only 10, 8, 12, 14 hours. This really doesn't matter. Now the dough looks really nice. We take the dough now out onto the counter, and then we create our pizza balls.
Here you can see now the dough upside down. We use the other side from the dough to create our dough balls, because there is already a nice structured surface, better than here, which was at the bottom of the box, and therefore we try to take the other side then when we create the dough balls. But now it's time to balance them. I make here 3 dough balls with the weight of around 200 to 290 grams. I try to make everyone exactly the same weight. If you divide your dough only by 3, and this is okay for you, this is also absolutely fine. It's not necessary to use a scale for this. Here you can see now the 3 dough balls, and like I said, the side which was at the leavening on top, we take this as our advantage. You see, this is already nice and structured and strong, and this is what we keep on top, and then we take the rest of the dough and we push simply under. And so we create all our 3 dough balls. If you have here already airy bubbles, you can destroy them or you can let them as they are. It doesn't matter. It's important to create here a nice structured and strong surface. Like you see here, I take always the dough and push it from the bottom towards the top, and then you can see we have a nice dough ball. We can turn it around and look if the bottom is closed properly. If yes, then it's okay. If not, we press it here a bit to close it, and then we have here a nice dough ball, and we place this in our box. And this is the same I do now for all 3.
If you want to see how to create or what possibilities we have to create dough balls, or the different possibilities we have to create dough balls, in this video I showed this a bit more in detail. The 3 dough balls are now in the box. This looks like now like this. You saw there is lots of free space in the box. I have not put all the dough balls in the free space, but I put everything in one corner. This has the reason that the dough rises to the height and is not going flat. We close now the lid of our box, because this protects also our dough balls from drying out, and I move them directly into the fridge again. There it stays until 3 to 4 hours before baking. So 3 to 4 hours before baking, we take them out and let them rest or raise for this time at room temperature. This is necessary so balls raise a bit more, because in the fridge there is not too much yeast activity. There is a creation of taste, yes of course, but the yeast doesn't raise so heavily and the dough stays a bit smaller. But at room temperature, yeast gets active and the dough raises. When we take out our dough balls from the fridge, depends a bit on room temperature. Today I hope it's a bit warmer, this is the reason why I said 3 to 4 hours. If it's colder, then it needs to be a bit longer at room temperature, so maybe 5 hours or even 6. And if it's far warmer, then only 2 to 3 hours are also enough. So it depends always a bit on temperature. Before baking, we prepare all our toppings. So the cheese is already prepared, the cheese is already draining, but then we can prepare our sausages, our mushrooms, or whatever we want. And the next thing we have to do before baking, of course, is preheating our oven. I bake today in the gas oven again because the weather is nice. And I preheat the gas oven round about for 45 to 60 minutes. It's absolutely necessary that the stone gets hot as it should be. I have an infrared thermometer to measure the temperature of the stone. So the stone should be at around 450 degrees Celsius. And now it's time to bake pizza. My balls have now leavened at room temperature for only 3 hours because it's warmer than expected, so it was enough to have only 3 hours. All the toppings are prepared. I have here hot salsiccia, I have here the Parmesan cheese, I have some goat cheese, mozzarella cheese, or I have here fior di latte. The semolina for stretching is prepared, and I have here the tomato sauce already. I have here a can of San Marzano tomatoes. I teared the San Marzano tomatoes by hand. So I avoided to destroy the seed of the tomatoes, because if I would use a mixer or something like this, there would be the danger to destroy the seed of the tomatoes, which would lead to a bitter taste. And this is what I wanted to avoid. And now let's prepare the pizza.
To be able to shape the pizza properly, it's absolutely important to take the dough balls very gently and very carefully out of the box. So we take some semolina and put semolina on top of the dough ball we want to take out, and everywhere where it attaches to any other dough ball or to the side of the box. Then we take a spatula and we release the dough everywhere where it has a connection. And then we go very carefully with some semolina at the bottom under, and then we lift it out and put it directly into a semolina bed. Then we close again the lid from the rest of the dough balls, because we want to avoid that the rest of the dough balls get dry, because we use them later. And now we flip several times the pizza ball in the semolina bed, and then we take it out onto our counter. If the ball is not nice round shaped, or if it sticks somewhere, look here, it sticks, I feel directly it sticks, I take some semolina, put the semolina, and then it stops sticking. If the dough ball is not nice round, we create a round shape, and then we start forming the pizza. And we start with the fingertips pressing from the center towards the crust. And we let around 1 or 2 centimeters of crust over, and we don't press the crust, because now we bring all the air which is inside of our dough to the crust. And then we flip the pie around, and then we do exactly the same from the other side. We are not shaping now to the final size, because the final size is only done when the pizza is on the peel. So, and you can see only with pressing I have already the shape of a nice pizza. If you think, okay, that's nice, then we take the pizza, put it over our hands, remove the semolina which is on the counter. Then we can stretch the pie a bit on our hands and then back to the counter. If you have here somewhere big air bubbles, open these big air bubbles, because otherwise they will definitely burn in the oven and this is then black and you can't do anything against it. So the first we add is our tomato sauce, 1 or 2 spoons, it depends how much you want. As soon the tomato sauce is on our pizza, we have to be a bit quick, because otherwise there is the possibility that it breaks. If you have to make your pizza in a home oven, then I link on the upper part of this video another video where I show how to bake, or what is necessary to to be careful with on a home oven. The next thing we add is our Parmesan cheese or Grana Padano. You also could use Pecorino if you want. Then we add some fresh basil. And the next is our fior di latte or mozzarella cheese. Don't add too much cheese, because otherwise the taste is not that nice, because on a Neapolitan pizza there is less more. So, and then I add a bit of hot salsiccia. And then some goat cheese. So that's done. And then at last a bit of olive oil. And now we launch it onto our peel. To launch it onto the peel, it's the easiest to put some semolina onto the peel and then lift the dough and bring your peel under. And now, as I said, on the peel we create the final size. The oven is already preheated to 450 degrees. It's very important to preheat the oven for minimum 45 to 60 minutes, so that the stone gets really hot. Otherwise there would be the possibility that the toppings are brown at the end and the bottom is not cooked nicely. So therefore it's important to preheat the oven for minimum 45 to 60 minutes. And here is now the fantastic pizza. Guys, this smells so fantastic, amazing. Let's have a look how the bottom is cooked, and you can see absolutely great. The crust is crispy as it should be. It's super full of air, exactly what we expected for our Poolish. Now let's taste. I cut here a piece and you can see how full of air this pizza is.
Yeah, and now I cut it out one piece, and now I will try at first from the center. So the center tastes absolutely fantastic. But in the center of a pizza we taste normally only the fantastic and great toppings and nothing from the dough. And now I will taste something from the crust, because here we have then the pure taste of our Poolish. Yeah, and again, absolutely success. This crust tastes also super fantastic. It has such a nice taste. I'm really happy about the result, and here I have to say, please go ahead and do it as well. Try the Poolish. It's not too complicated. It's only 5 minutes more of effort. What you saw, we made it in only a few minutes. It's absolutely worth to try it. This is what I can recommend. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like my videos, please subscribe my channel, then you don't miss the next ones. And yeah, I wish you lots of success with creating this pizza. Buon appetito. Ciao.